Hello YouTube, my name is Kevin, and I thought I'd put together this video about our company van and do just a van tour. Noticed on YouTube there are not a lot of low voltage or AV tech van tours, or really not a lot of content tailored for that group of contractors. So a little background, I'm the owner and operator of a small custom electronics company, and those types of companies have undergone all kinds of different revisions in what they're referred to. Used to be custom integrators, low volt technicians, audio video companies. You could call it really what you want. What we do is, and I give you this only for reference of how the van is outfitted and what it's optimized for. I'm not really looking to do a company promotion or anything like that. Just this video is targeted at other people in the industry that have curiosity about how similar companies outfit their vehicles, what tools they use, what purposes they use them for. I probably will submit this to a good friend and colleague that works with me on a regular basis. His name is Scott. His YouTube channel is Scott's Tool Thoughts. It's a pretty interesting organic reflection on tools and uses. He does this a lot more than I do, so please forgive any grammatical errors, tongue-tied, embarrassing comments I may make, or any faux pas that I may commit, because I don't do a lot of YouTube at all. But I've kind of caught the bug. He's having a lot of fun doing his. And I thought I would try to contribute, because I often find very helpful bits of information from guys that just do this for, you know, contribution to the industries. And you know, YouTube is a remarkable research tool. I use it anytime I purchase anything, because it seems that people are always willing to create a video that shows their experiences and their opinions on various items. As well as troubleshooting. You can find answers to almost anything. They're not always right, but you can certainly find different points of view on how to approach something. So enough about that, and again, I'll apologize, I'm a little long-winded, and you always have a fast forward button. So the vehicle that we use, and a little more background, is I've been in the business in low voltage trades for over 30 years, coming up on 35 years. I've always driven a van. We work in Northeast Ohio, so the elements are a big consideration when deciding how to outfit your company. You know, pickup trucks don't haul enough, and often your contents are exposed to the elements, and in Ohio that can be harsh. We get pretty good winters, I'm sure a lot of people know, and the summers can be hot and humid, so there's a big swing in weather that we have to contend with. So this van is always the best option for us. Has been for me for years. With this purchase of this vehicle, and this truck is 4 years old. It's a Ram Promaster. It's a 1500. We don't haul anything really heavy. Probably the heaviest things are the cable that we do when we have a large pre-wire, or when we do finishes. The racks can go 300-400 pounds more, depending on the contents in them. But a 1500 has turned out over 4 years to be more than sufficient. Even though probably the outfits that I put in the back, in the name of the flooring, the bins, they probably bring us pretty close to, routinely pretty close to capacity on this truck. It has always performed very well. The Promaster, I've driven every truck that you can imagine. Sprinters, Fords, Chevys, Dodges. This truck has outperformed every one of them over the last 35 years. There is really no comparison. There are a number of things about this truck that give it significant advantages, and if you're considering on, you know, which of the major vehicles to purchase, some things I considered and really have been very pleased with. The advantages this thing gave us is it's front-wheel drive. It's a large truck, and I apologize, I don't know the exact specs. I think it's the center of the 3 wheelbases. I think they have a 118 a 132 or something like that, and a 159. And please accept my apologies to anyone that is more in the know. I could be way off there, but I believe this is the center of the wheelbases. This is the tall configuration, and I'll talk more about that shortly. But the front wheel drive was one of the biggest considerations. We get pretty good snow here, and road conditions can be perilous at times. The front wheel drive has been remarkable. It's very sure-footed in the snow and ice. The maneuverability that you get from front wheel drive is second to none. This thing has a turning radius similar to a mid-size sedan. I can put this gigantic truck, and to me it's gigantic, compared to, you know, like even an Econoline Ford or something. This is a big truck. I can put this thing in places that people sometimes get wide-eyed. How did that guy get that truck in there? And they, even when they watch me do it, I see the look on their face like, wow, that thing really, you know, you kind of get the notion that they're surprised when I pull through a narrow space or hang a turn that really you don't expect. I mean, you can pull a U-turn in this thing on an average size street without hesitation. And I drove all of the vans that I was looking at, the Nissan, the Ford Transit, and this thing. I was looking at those three when I bought this. No comparison as far as maneuverability and handling. The Ford has more power, but is rear-wheel drive, and have spoken to a lot of contractors that said the Ford was really difficult to handle in the snow and ice because of the amount of torque. If you get it with the EcoBoost, I guess, they have told me that there are some challenges. You really have to relearn your driving with it, and there are places they can't go in the winter with that much torque in the rear wheel. Other advantages are the fuel economy. This thing really does very well. I get real world, and you know, a lot of guys will quote the specs on them, but real world I get anywhere from 15 to 20 depending on the nature of my driving, my destinations, you know, whether it's freeway or city. Also, I'm a, well, let's call it spirited driver. I don't dawdle. I'm a little heavy-footed, and I get down the road as needed, and that can cost you fuel economy. So, but realistically, it averages around 16, 17 miles to the gallon overall. It's been a while since I calced it. The vehicle is very comfortable. It rides like a dream. You know, the cabin is nice and comfortable. The seats are comfortable. They're adjustable. And obviously there's different options, but these suit us well. We got cloth seats. I might consider doing leather next time because, you know, you spill a drink on these and it becomes unsightly, but they are holding up pretty well. Really, even as far as wear and tear, the truck has 90,000 miles on it, and it is holding up very well. We do take good care of our resources. I just gave this thing a bath, but I wanted to, you know, the van is not in its most optimum configuration currently. You know, if you run a business like ours, you'll recognize that, you know, you have to routinely switch between pre-wire, trim, finish. It's a different tool complement, a different, you know, stock complement, and no van is big enough. I don't care how big a truck you get or trailer you haul. No van is really big enough to haul it all at once, so you're constantly reconfiguring. You know, this is the middle of summer, late in summer, and we're running fast and furious like most companies in this industry, thankfully. Things are doing very well. So the truck is low on a lot of stock. We have a large job in progress. A number of tools and resources are deployed permanently on that job in a job box. So there are some things I won't be able to show you, but hopefully what I do will be helpful. As far as options in the vehicle, I got power mirrors that tilt in. That has been handy quite often when you're going through a drive-through. The navigation, actually, I'm sorry, I don't have navigation in this. We typically use iPhones, and they come right through the Bluetooth connection, so you don't have to stare at your phone. It just gives you directions right over the sound system in the truck. But the touchscreen and the, you know, the sound system is very good. It does very well for us. The rear camera is something I will probably never have a vehicle without. They're coming standard on most things, but this was the first vehicle I owned with a rear view camera, and it is remarkable how convenient that thing is. RAM really nailed it on theirs. The camera is at the top, so it's 9 foot high, and the view that you get is you know, I could be wrong, but it's at least 180 degrees, and you can see cars approaching in that camera before you can see them looking out the sides. I got this truck with windows, and a lot of guys will say, well, that's a big security risk. And then, you know, I'll have to give them that. We're very careful about, you know, where we leave the truck. I have not put security screens inside. I know that's an option. I have done that in the past. But we've been fortunate. I have insurance that covers the contents of the truck. The windows, to me, are necessary for visibility. The bulkhead that we got in this thing is got a window in the center of it, and if I turn my head and look through that, I can see through this. So when I'm making a turn that's more than 90 degrees into traffic, I can see through to the you know, the lane to my right. And if, like I say, if the truck is angled, that can be really critical. If you don't have a passenger to help you look to clear your way, that has been helpful often. So for me, it's got to have a window in the side, and I do like the one in the rear. You know, the security concerns are one, but to me, driving safety overrid that, and that's what insurance is for. My safety and the safety of my occupants are far more bigger consideration. So that's the reasoning behind the windows in it. So looking at how we outfitted the cab, again, it's a little low on stock, but one of the nice things is this overhead storage. Up there we typically keep notepads. There's containers of change for parking, pens, pencils, microfiber cloths for cleaning glasses, lenses, phones, watches, all the various things. Gloves are up there. Numerous things. It's really nice to have that storage there. You forget it's there until you need the item. There's a box of business cards. So really, it's very versatile. Really good use of space in the truck. So additionally, we use a full-size trash can in the truck. It gets messy. I won't lie. You know, the truck is not perfectly clean, but it's reasonably clean. We try to keep it that way routinely. It's important in this type of business to stay organized so you can be efficient. Know where your items are, again, for efficiency. The truck has large door pockets. Any number of items get stowed there. Rags, gloves. I think I've got some wipes for when you're at the gas station and you get gas on your hands. We keep a little stash of mixed nuts there for when you're on a job and you can't break away for lunch or what have you. It gets late in the day and you need a little pick-me-up. It's nice to have. That's really it on the cab. So this truck is a little tall to step in and out of. If you notice, there a lot of the trucks have a recessed kind of inside step, which is nice for getting up in and out. I can honestly say I don't miss it because it gives you more cargo space. You wouldn't think, you know, a 6-inch recessed step would affect things, but when you're really loading up, it can. We typically keep these little foldable steps to help you get in and out, and they work very well. If you don't forget them and run over them, which we have done, it's possible, but we put these rare earth magnets on this one for storing. We have a first aid kit that's got a steel case, and the rare earth magnets hold this thing perfectly. It virtually never flies loose in traffic or what have you, so it's always right there. We've got a fire extinguisher. I think that's important to have. Fortunately, we've never had to use it, but we do make sure it stays charged. We monitor it periodically, and it's ready to go should you have an emergency and need it. Really not that expensive. I think it was maybe 40-50 bucks. Mounted on the bin. It's always there, always safe. We have used the first aid kit for various small cuts and bruises. Fortunately, nothing big. There is a nice edge here that you can hook numerous things on. I currently have my butt set on there. It's not something that we use routinely, so I don't carry it in my primary tool bag, which is this Vito Pro Pack. Really, probably the best tool bag I've ever used. I've used, again, all types. Klein's, Rigid, Husky. You know, I've used quite a few different ones, and the way they have this thing set up is very good. I'll maybe just show a quick view of you know, what we carry in there, but that's probably a longer video to really go through that in depth. But I can't say enough good things about the Vito Pro Packs. They come in all kinds of sizes. Scott's carries one that's even longer. He puts even more stuff in it, but it's very high density storage. Very organized. One little pro tip I would give you is if you carry a lot of tools like this and you have a bag that has pockets, set it up the way you like it, use it for a while, and then once you figure you kind of have it dialed in, take some pictures of what you have in it, just like it is right here. And then when you're missing a tool and you can't remember what the hell you're missing, because this happens, unfortunately we go so many places, it's easy to leave a tool behind. You know, 35 years of trying to train myself not to do it hasn't worked. Just today I had to go retrieve a wayward tool I left on a job site. Usually I'm pretty lucky. The locations they get left, I'm able to get them back, but I have lost some because of my own absent-mindedness. So taking a picture of your bag that you keep on your phone, everyone's carrying a smartphone nowadays, can be really helpful for figuring out what you left behind or what you're missing, even if it's just to go buy it again because you really don't know where you left it. But it's very helpful. The Vitos have two sides. This is what I would call my front. The most commonly used hand tools are there. One of the things I didn't want to modify the bag permanently. It is one shortfall of the Vitos. There's no built-in means of storing stock. Now you can fill little bags and throw them in there, but for me that didn't work. It takes away from the hand tool storage, and I probably carry too much in regards to weight. The bag has gotten upwards of 40 to 50 pounds. I haven't weighed it lately, but so I needed ready stock, you know, anchors, screws, fittings. So what I did was I bought this little organizer, and I apologize, this may be a little challenging with just one hand. And I put these things on the side so that I can anchor it to the bag without modifying the bag, and it has worked out well for me. It adds a little weight, but when I'm going into a job where I expect I'm going to need any of these items, this is a two-sided organizer that I keep, and again, it's not really very organized right now. It needs replenished. RJ45 connectors, screws, Capcons, anchors, just random stuff that you'll need in the job. Some infrared emitters. Something like that can be very helpful. Also, I would consider that kind of a good tip for a lot of guys that are kind of struggling with trips back and forth to the truck to get things. The other side of the bag is larger tools, meters, socket sets, bit sets, screw gun, a nice small hammer. It's a little, it's not enough to do a full job, but if you're doing a single wire run and you got to nail a few clips in, it's nice to have a little, I don't know, I think it's a 6-ounce hammer or something like that. Just something inexpensive. That's worked out. Tie wrap gun leads to more professional installations when trimming tie wrap tails, and you'll save your arms if you work in racks a lot and use tie wraps. You'll notice if you cut them with dikes, they're sharp. They'll cut you. That thing leaves a tail that you don't even feel. So again, if anyone's interested in seeing a more extensive video on what I carry in the top bag, I call it, post it in comments and see what I can do. Not easy to do with one hand. Especially if you're terminally right-handed, Left hand is basically worthless. So back to the Promaster, the van tour. One of the reasons we bought high roof, there are two main reasons. We're getting older, crawling in and out of a van on our knees and ducking constantly leads to back fatigue, and it sucks. I will never again go to a van that I can't stand upright in. Added benefits: the 6-foot ladder stands up comfortably in the front of it. The little giant stands up comfortably in the front of it. Other van configurations, I've tried to suspend them from the ceilings, which make you duck even more. I've tried to lay them along in front of the shelves, which block access to tools and supplies. I've tried configuring a van with only one side of shelves, and then, of course, the ladder's on the other side, and that has been challenging because you're missing shelf space. Earlier I mentioned that you could never really carry enough stuff and you have to reconfigure. That's always true. The more bins we have, the better we can stay organized. I selected my bins. There's about 3 or 4 different vendors in this area, and I carefully shopped them. I've been using these guys for years, and they're very accommodating. They let me design the layout just exactly the way I want. They let me specify where I want them bolted. I wanted this space between the bulkhead and the bins at the front. They typically leave that at the back. He was very accommodating. I knew I wanted to put ladders. We've got a collapsible table in there. Also very useful on the jobs, especially when you have a 50-pound tool bag. Not having it on the floor is nice. Putting it up on a table that you can stage and unpack supplies and, you know, speakers and whatever you're installing on that table is nice. But the bin manufacturer, the Steelworks guys, they let me configure this truck exactly as I wanted it. A couple of cabinets for security, and more sensitive tool storage that close and lock if need be. A drawer complement exactly the way I wanted. A couple of larger ones, some smaller ones, although I have found that I don't use the smaller ones as much as I thought I would. One of the things is you'll notice the holes in the drawers. There's no latches. They were plastic and they did not last at all. We were constantly having drawers fly open and stock fly loose and so forth. And we tried all kinds of things. The guy at the bin, the outfit location didn't really have a good answer for us, unfortunately. Scott came up with a remarkable solution. We do a lot of security systems, and anyone that does security systems are going to be familiar with those rare earth magnets that I showed you on the step there. Well, there's this latch that the latch used to, this lip that the latch used to hook onto. Well, it's a perfect place for these rare earth magnets. I don't know if you can see them there to grab hold of. So they're readily available and inexpensive. So what we did was we just purchased them, lined the front of the drawers with them. They hold remarkably well. It's not that they never fly open. Remember, I am a spirited driver, and that leads to drawers flying open. But they have been the best solution. Kudos to Scott. He's remarkably insightful when it comes to things like that, and that was a great idea. It's worked out very well. Kind of the layout inside. We've got the space underneath the wheel well. There we have a full-size socket set, a full-size tap and die set. Very helpful to have on jobs. There's another first aid kit with additional supplies. Window washer fluid is constantly in there because Ohio. There's some boot covers. When you're putting fluids in this vehicle, it's a lot of vans. Some of the filler necks can be difficult to reach, so we've got some funnels there for oil and washing fluid. There's some garbage bags. There's a backup hard hat there. There's a small shovel for when we're doing outside work and we have to bury some wires for short distances. Larger distances we contract for it, but if we have to troubleshoot or something small like a set of rocks or something that's in a mulch bed, we'll do it. So there's some yard implements down there. There's a small pickaxe way back in there and a shovel. This cabinet is again, a lot of our resources are currently deployed on a large job that we have in progress, so it's a little anemic right now, but there's a This is not this brand. It's actually a Milwaukee oscillating tool that is remarkably useful. There's a circular saw, some tie-down straps, a speed square, a smaller socket set, some of my belts. I keep the full ones in there, but again, they're locked in a job box currently. There's a monocular that has come in handy on some camera jobs and several outdoor things. There's a jigsaw or saber saw, not sure the proper terminology, has also come in handy when doing some custom work. There's a kit for doing locks. We do automated locks. There's a is this a heat gun? Yep, there's a heat gun. Comes in handy oftentimes for various tasks. Normally there's some additional stuff in here. There's a Milwaukee portable fan. There's a Milwaukee whole hog kit that I'd love to show you. That's really probably the greatest engineering in hole saws that we've ever seen. Scott may have even showed that on one of his videos. Moving up the drawers, there's labels and ID, pencils, labels for our label maker. Again, apologies, these drawers are not as organized as they should be, but I think it's important to show, you know, these vans, they get used and they don't always stay organized. We try very hard, but it's never perfect. It never has been, it never will be. We just do the best we can. Like this cord is out of place, it really doesn't belong there. It was, you know, that happens. There's replacement tail lights right here by the tail lights. They're interesting to change. Just went through that. Terminal strips. Again, very small parts go into these drawers. We have not really determined a permanent scheme for them, but you do kind of remember where things are. Pigtails for doing CCTV for the powered cameras that get discrete power. There's some red RCAs when doing those. Chargers for the two-way radios. Those were in the Vito. I didn't really show those, but there's a charger for that, and dividers for these drawers if we ever decide on a more permanent scheme of how we want to organize it. Here's a case with some wire nuts. Nice little pocket. It seems to stay there very well. Zip ties and cable management, and there's some overflow on the wire nuts. There's a Blu-ray player that is used for testing often. This bin kind of turns into a catch-all, but we do keep what is labeled in there. They're under all the other catch-all stuff. Keystone inserts. One of the things I did was, because these things tend to get in the way of the drawer opening and closing, I made these little covers. Drill a hole in it so it's easy to put in and out. Helps keep the drawer operating smoothly. Not infallible, as you can see. This one's broken. Too much stock can cause it to lift up and catch anyway. But wall plates of various colors, sizes and shapes and port configurations. Pass-throughs are used often in our business for behind TVs. We don't often plate and patch. You can dress up to a plate with a a coax fitting and a RJ45 socket, and then put patch cords from there to your items. Honestly, it's extremely labor intensive. We find that for as often as these things get moved, changed, serviced, it's easier just to put a pass through and take the circuit right to the device behind the TVs. Lots of guys will argue the merits, but that has been what really works best for us. Retro plates looks like what are rings, retrofit rings, cut in single gang boxes, 2-gang retro boxes, 2-gang pass-throughs, and let's see, the remote that goes with the Blu-ray player. Not sure what that is or where that came from, but Scott may have put that there. We're a Control 4 dealer, and there are some accessories, some plates and Zigbee extenders. There's a couple light switches and dimmers in there. Just general accessories. This is a touchscreen removal tool. Found it warranted a bin of its own. We've got one for electrical tape. There's some heat shrink, heat tape, or electrical tape and similar items go in this bin. Miscellaneous tapes. Oftentimes you need to mount things with two-sided tape. Duct tape, HVAC tape is also very helpful. Painter's tape. So there's a bin for miscellaneous tape. We have this bin for small electronics. This thing holds a little bit of everything, and really we're thinking about adding additional storage for small electronics, perhaps in this space here above these bins. Network switches, you know, 5 ports, 8 ports, PoE injectors, HDMI balins, any number of small items, audio converters, you know, DACs, just small electronics that you use routinely on service calls and to fill in the gaps where you've maybe missed a piece that you need on a job, and it's handy to have them on a truck. Safety bin for eye protection, ear protection, some dust masks, gloves. We've got some Tyvek suits. This kind of goes with the extension cords that are hanging on the back there. There's a splitter, helpful to have on pre-wires. We've got some plumber strap, also remarkably useful product for doing poke outs instead of just cardboard on a pre-wire, and you kind of have to see if you don't know what I mean by that, you kind of have to see it in action. Fastening things to the wall that don't have mounting facilities, like modems, routers, if you're doing a backboard and it's not, you know, not big enough to really set a shelf and do that kind of stuff. If you just want to mount one item real quick, plumber strap works really well. It's inexpensive and works well. Let's see, batteries of all sizes, shapes, and good to keep those on the truck. Putty, always have to keep putty on the truck. Looks like we're low and need to buy some. For sealing up penetrations to the outside world and anywhere really where you need to seal it, putty works very well. We also use caulk and silicone, but putty's kind of my favorite. This is actually, should be in the safety. This is a respirator. Probably fell out and got tucked back in. We have some that are not labeled and they kind of receive miscellaneous items. Nylon pry tools for non-marring when you're prying baseboards, any number of things. It's a good tool to have so that you don't deface the finish on the work area that you're working on. We use these, what we call them, port savers. Oh, they're called port savers. For our testers, if you plug in and out an RJ45 enough times, you're going to ruin the socket. So by putting this in, you wear these out and you can replace them. So on your data testers, it's good to have a port saver. I have had to throw away a perfectly good tester because I couldn't replace the female socket and it was toast. So we started using those. We've got some coax fittings in this bin. Let's see, rack gears and mounting. Oftentimes you need, you know, something doesn't come with the right rack gears or any rack gears because you forgot to order them or what have you. This is a lifesaver to have some of those accessories available. Respect people's homes. We wear boot covers. Also looks like we need to order some more. We've got a jar of them down there as well. Call them crystals, call them RJ45 ends, RJ45 connectors. We've got various ones here, Cat 5, Cat 6, shielded. All of that's right here at the end of the bin. That's that side. Let's see. Another one of these, kept conveniently in the door next to the rear there for easy access. This Purell cleaner was a nice thought, but really didn't last well enough. You can see we tried taping it up because the sensor, whenever the sun hit it, the thing would spit out a bunch of Purell and it would run out soon, and we were constantly having to clean up the truck, but we'll try to find something else. It's nice to be able to wash your hands from the outside of the truck without getting in and crapping up your cab. We currently keep these you know, disposable hand wipes. They're really what we use most, just to get the big stuff off at the end of the day when you're getting ready to fight traffic and go home. It's nice to get the crap off your hands if there's no water available on the job. Back of the truck, we have a broom and bungees. Can't stress enough about securing what you're hauling. The bungees work very well. The bins have mounting holes, so you've got an infinite number of options for securing TVs, whatever your cargo may be. you know, holding it securely so that you don't have any mishaps, which I'd be lying if I said never happened. I have had TVs get damaged in the back of my truck from you know, lack of securing them properly, and oh, it's a short trip and it'll be fine. And you always got to secure your stock. It's remarkable how much moves around in the back of these trucks in traffic, especially when you've got an hour-long drive and it's freeway and city. It can happen. Let's see, on the top of the truck we've put a tube for glow rods, creepsits, whatever brand you want to call them, fish sticks, part of every iteration of term for them. We do stand some up in the back here as well for quick and easy access. Under the wheel well on this side we've got a platform for the little giant ladder, box, a bucket of pull string, a couple of kneeling pads. Can't stress enough how valuable those are, especially when you're 50 plus. Very handy when a lot of our work is down near the ground. These kneeling pads are a lifesaver. Cheap, available anywhere. We've got a corded hammer drill for the heavier, you know, drilling 1-inch holes through precast concrete. You're just not going to do it with a cordless drill very easily. That thing has been remarkably helpful. This is a Hole Pro. If you've never seen one of those, they are very awesome tools. They let you drill a hole in ceiling without dropping all the dust. It cuts a perfect clean hole. You can size it to your speaker opening or your lights if you're an electrician. And again, apologize about the van really does need to be cleaned out more thoroughly. We keep it organized and reasonably clean, but a couple times a year we pull everything out and we get this crap out. Job sites are messy, as you can see. A lot of mud in there. Oh, and a stray battery. That's not good. Back to the Hole Pro. Worth every penny. I bought an expensive one. It has been well worth it. You adjust the cut head, put the drill on the bottom. The pan goes up against the ceiling, catches all the dust, cuts a perfect hole, exactly to the size that you need. And if you ever have to cut speakers in, a very useful tool. Worth every penny. I think I paid, I don't know, 150 bucks for this thing. Would do it again without hesitation. Save that in labor and cleanup many times over. We're big believers in the right tool for the right job. You know, Scott is a fanatic about using really high quality tools. I have not always had the money to buy the best, but I do strive to use good high quality tools and absolutely recognize the value of using a well-made tool over an inexpensive cheapie. So enough on that. We have some long bits, flex bits. They lay here rather nicely. They fit, don't move around. We've got a couple of bins here. They're labeled long HDMI, and there are some long HDMIs there, but we found that the power strips and extension cords kind of spill over into there. Again, life is imperfect. Best laid plans and all that. We make adjustments periodically. We may just label this more power strips and find another location for long HDMI cables. It's always a work in progress. We keep stuff in with these little bungees. It actually works pretty well. They're easy to move out of the way, get to what you need, and they do fairly well at keeping things in place. One of the things we found, again, many years of doing this, is we can use these little acro bins, but a lot of the supplies you need a bigger space, and I have found these inexpensive little toolboxes to be phenomenal at that. We've set our bins so to accommodate putting them in, and they're just long enough to where the back sits down on the bottom and the top sits up on the rail. That angle has kept them. I don't think I've ever had one of these fly out in traffic. Just that alone has kept them in place. It works well. There's a nice spot for a label, so you can see kind of what we have. Network, there's patch cables in there, security, there's contacts in there, and other security pertinent items. Analog audio, so there's a lot of left-right cords, stereo to mini adapters, stereo mini to stereo mini, so on and so forth. Relays and power supplies get used very often. You need a little 12 volt, 1 amp power supply for various things, or 5 volts, or what have you. Relays for various custom circuits. Toslink and digital cables, patch cables. VGA, not used that often anymore, but still there. Composite, also a rarely used box, may get phased out, but seems like still important enough to have it. HDMI and DVI, we may add a second one of those because obviously all video nowadays, most video nowadays is using HDMI, so we can't keep enough of those in the truck. Often we'll put a you know, like a contractor pack in here. The stock that we keep on the shelves is for everyday use, for service use. If we get a small ad that, you know, was unexpected, the customer says, hey, can you do this, can you do that, we like to accommodate. By having this stock on the truck, we can handle most small ads like that without having to go out and purchase. We can do it right on the spot, and that has been helpful. That's really what these are for. If we get a big job that's going to use 30 HDMIs or 40 or something like that, they come with the stock to the job. That's why we try to keep the center of this truck clear, because you know, when you're hauling the stock to the jobs, the TVs, the the wire, all of the equipment that the client has purchased, by having everything stowed and organized neatly in the shelves, you have a lot of floor space in these to accommodate transport of those items on an as-needed basis. Again, that system kind of works for us. If you guys all have a different way of doing it, always open to hearing good comments. So we have a bin labeled pre-wire. New construction nail-in boxes of various sorts. 1 gang, 2 gang. Most of these are Carlon. This bin is always in chaos. We're trying some new, well, new to us. We usually use D-rings, but we find that they are a little expensive. So we're kind of experimenting. We've got some of these to try out on our next pre-wire. For our trunk line, they're just little bulk clips that you can create a trunk line with. We'll see how they go. Nail plates. Occasionally you have to add an outlet to an enclosure, like an infrastructure can or what have you. So we've always got some stuff for adding outlets, receptacles, and we've got grommets. This is miscellaneous conduit fittings and bushings, seal type fittings. Again, typically we stage those per job if we know we're doing some conduit, but it's nice to have some miscellaneous on the truck. Also for pre-wires, very helpful for organizing vertical drops. These more commonly used by electricians for Romex, but they also do work well for low-volt cabling. Alright. So, snap toggles. If anybody doesn't know what snap toggles are, in this business, you really should check them out. They are probably the greatest fastener invented in the last 15 years. They're similar to regular toggle bolts, butterfly bolts, but they are reusable. When you take the bolt out, the butterfly on the back doesn't fall into the wall, and without being able to use 2 hands, I won't be able to show you really much about them. Again, if interested, leave something in the comments, and we can certainly show that off. Long screws that don't fit in these bins are in here, and some lags for TV mounting. There's a full-size box of snap toggles back there. This is an electrical tester. I forget which one it is. I think this is one of our network testers. There is a large full organizer of pre-wire clips that goes here, typically, again, currently deployed on a job. I think this one is still undeployed yet, or unassigned, so I don't really have anything in that one yet. It's good to have overhead in your truck for when you have intermittent needs for use. There's an organizer that we can tap into on a per job basis, or if a need arises in the truck. The section of 4 just fit in nice, so made sense. These are a recent addition to the truck. It's always a challenge to store and organize hardware. I found that these are a pretty good high density way of doing that. Again, you keep enough for routine use in here. You know, when you're doing a large job, you purchase a larger quantity, and they go into the job in a job box or what have you. But this lets you stay organized for daily use and miscellaneous needs as they arise. We've got anchors and screws, ram sets. We use ram sets to set boards. The charges and the fasteners are in here. Ram set is next to it here. We just use this small handheld. Drywall screws, tech screws, Tapcons. Nice thing about these bins is they are removable and you can take them into the job, so if, you know, on an as-needed basis, take that right into the job, stay organized, come back and stow it and take off. A little bit of a challenge to keep them from flying open. These do work, but sometimes you'll stop and you'll have them like this. You'll hear them do that as you're driving. Has turned out to be no problems. It's just a little annoying. The bulkhead fitting that we put in this truck is a solid bulkhead fitting. I will never again go to a metal grate or, you know, stamped bulkhead fitting. This keeps all the AC and heat in the front. You virtually hear nothing back here other than something loud like one of these things slamming. The ride noise in this truck is minimal because of that solid bulkhead. I highly recommend it to anyone looking at configuring a truck. Worth it. It was expensive, 3 times more expensive than one of the metal ones, but honestly would not hesitate to use it again, and will in the next truck I purchase. So hardware storage is there. The next bin down is a little bit of a catch-all. We've got a boroscope. We've got drill bits for the hammer drill in there. A couple of fish tapes. There's a traditional hole saw kit. There's a small vise for when you're customizing. There's a clamp that integrates with the table, the collapsible table. A larger hole saw is in there. Wire caddies for when you're working with spools instead of boxes. There's a road safety kit here. That's pretty much it there. This bin that closes and locks if needed stores more sensitive electronics. There's a backup laptop, a video monitor, a clamp meter, electronic test equipment. There's an HDMI test kit that comes in very handy. Various more sensitive items that you just don't want in hand's reach, and you can lock it if you're concerned about where your truck is. This is a test kit. It's a data logger that actually logs the integrity of the 110 volt power that you're feeding your gear with. Has turned out to be a lifesaver. We had some that we thought was because of dirty power and couldn't get it cleaned up enough with various electronics, UPSs and so forth. It logs the power over weeks if you set the intervals correctly, and you can kind of interrogate the quality of the electrical power you're feeding your gear with on that. We've got a light stack here, a walking wheel, a dustpan, and overflow on the booties are kind of hiding there. PVC fits in this truck, 10-foot lengths all the way from, there's over the cab storage here. I don't know if anyone has noticed, I haven't mentioned it. The bulkhead stops here, and then there's a small area that's, I don't know, 3 foot deep that you can stow things. We've got a spare wall mount, furniture blankets, some Liquidite, some Greenfield or BX. Various things sit up there. It's nice extra attic storage in the Promaster high roof versions. We also keep a complement of various cables on the truck: Firewire, coax, Cat5, speaker wire, 22.4. Anything beyond that we will put on the floor. There's some Romex for quick outlet adds if you need to, and some hook wires. When you're fishing wire in a wall, one of the most versatile tools, believe it or not, is just 12 gauge solid wire. It's flexible, you can shape it as you need to reach in and find what you're fishing, and it's reusable, and it's cheap, it's plentiful. 30 some years of fishing wires and walls, and I tell you, it's an irreplaceable tool. I always have some 12 gauge available for fishing wire. Behind these bins is a little bit of everything. We've got a cable amp, we've got a 2-man forklift. Here's a bin that I forget what we planned on storing in here, but there's some fasteners for trim. It's kind of turned into a catch-all, the space beyond the bins here. Temporary use for storing things. There's a furniture blanket, and long HDMIs have ended up there. Again, kind of overflowed up front. There's a glove that could probably go back in the glove bin. This is a space that's easily reached from outside of the truck, so oftentimes when you're in a hurry, you jam it in there. I think we all know how that goes. That's pretty much it. This is how we've organized our truck. This is 4 years in. This is a fairly routine state. It does get worse, but we try not to leave it worse for long because you just can't operate out of a crappy, messy truck. You got to be able to get in and find stuff efficiently. I guess the elephant in the room that I haven't mentioned is my Milwaukee pack-out system. We're big fans of Milwaukee, and there's lots of good tools out there. I'm not really looking to debate with anyone which brand is best. For our needs, the Milwaukees, you know, the versatility of their line, we have been very pleased with it. We've used a lot of different ones, all with pros and cons. Oh, here's snap toggles more easily accessible. I mentioned them earlier. You drill a 1/2-inch hole, you line the nut up, you put it in a 1/2-inch hole, and then from the front of it, outside of the wall, you can line it up and it pivots the wall, or the nut inside the wall, and it's threaded. There we go. It's threaded so that this ratchets down. You push this up against the drywall, and it sandwiches the drywall between the nut in the back and this opening in the front. And then these break off. You just bend them and they break off, and so all you have is a hole in the wall that you can thread the nut through the front piece into the, you know, the back nut. You can thread the bolt into the back nut and put a TV mount up. One of these is good for, I don't know, a couple 100 pounds straight down. They are a remarkable fastener. Again, check them out. They're called snap toggles. You can find them under various brands. But back to the pack out. So I've really enjoyed the pack out system. There's a lot of videos showing these systems. Just remarkably versatile. I like that you can break it apart. Again, getting older, it's tough to carry a pack that weighs 100 pounds up some stairs or on a job. These things roll very well, extremely versatile, highly configurable. You can stack them to any height you want or can handle. Again, not really a pack out tour, but if you pull it forward, the lid will stay open. We're pretty well invested in the Milwaukee battery system, so that leads us to buy the Milwaukee tools, and have been very pleased with all of the ones that we've used. Again, if you have a greater interest in it, post on either Scott's site. I will, again, probably share this video with him, it will have it. Or I post this on my site, on my channel. Just a quick showcase of the system. Very, very versatile. You can stay reasonably organized in it. These are tools that I don't use on a daily basis, but if I need it, I just take the whole damn pack in and I have everything that I need on site. It's lockable. Very well made for rolling. The wheels are good size. They'll roll across this gravel out here without a problem. It's like you don't even know it's there. I can't say that for other rolling tool bags I've used. We always keep water in the truck. It's important to stay hydrated. It's easy to forget on the job sites. We're low and need another pallet of water, or, you know. This is a vacuum, a portable vacuum that Milwaukee has. We call it a teapot because of its resemblance to a teapot, but It uses those same batteries, and it's remarkably handy. Very professional to clean up after yourself. We usually try to make the place look better than we found it. One other thing I didn't show you is underneath the blocking bin is a perfect spot for these organizers. Inexpensive little organizers you can find at any home improvement, Lowe's, Home Depot. This particular one is set up with mounting hardware. We hang a lot of TVs, and so you need metric bolts. You get more bolts than you need with every TV, so we tend to hang on to them. We fill these things up, and then when we're rehanging someone's used TV or what have you, we've got a good supply of various bolts to accomplish that. Other bins here have some conduit fittings. There's one that are coax fittings. Easy to stay organized with them. It's a good place to keep them on the truck. We keep some in our ready stock in our bags, but this is overflow, and then of course at the company we keep replenishment stock for all of this. You can only carry so much on a truck. One of these I don't think we've assigned yet. It's still available. Well, hopefully this has been helpful, and sorry if it's been too long-winded. Write with any questions. Do what I can to get you an answer. Thanks again.